Imagine taking a company from 5 million to 15 million in just 18 months. Picture transforming a 40-year-old manufacturing firm into a paragon of 98% on time delivery, or scaling an internet business that you eventually sell. Most would call these feats impossible without sacrificing work life balance. But today's guest has proven that not only can you win in the business, but you can do it while being a genuinely good person. Award winning leader, business transformer, and advocate for doing business right. Our guest today is Jerry Macnamara. Welcome to another episode of our Founders Podcast. I'm your host, Ash, and this is a show where I interview proven founders and industry experts who share their stories, strategies, and insights to help you build, launch, and grow your business. I hope you like our chat with Jerry. Jerry, welcome to the show.
Ash, thank you for having me. This is super exciting. I'm excited to have a conversation with you.
Great. Do you have a favorite quote, something that inspires or motivates you would like to share with our audience?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I'm a big believer in hope because hope is what hopefully drives us to the future. So um, when I was 8 years old, I actually started collecting quotes because I thought, wow, I can learn from all of these amazing people in history and take on board their knowledge. So my favorite quote is, "Hope feels the intangible, sees the invisible, and achieves the impossible."
Mm, that is really, really good. Is it who authored it? Who penned it down?
I was thinking who authored it. I forget who did that. I mean, I just turned 50, so that was about 42 years ago the first time I read that, because I remember being in third grade when I read it, and I
Yeah.
do not remember who the author was, but that has been an inspiration for me. And I think, for running businesses and being captains of sports teams, what's the vision that we're casting forward that people can grab onto and have hope for a better opportunity, a better place, solve a big problem. And so that has always been a pivotal moment for me in my life.
Amazing, amazing. And these quotes are the things which keeps us motivating no matter where we go because we always keep, seeing them somewhere. Great. So, Jerry, I'm eager to learn about you in person. Can you take us back to your roots and share with our audience about your upbringing, childhood? How did your early experiences shaped your journey and eventually led
Oh,
you to become a visionary entrepreneur coach? And were there any influences from your family or surroundings
yeah.
that played a significant role in shaping your entrepreneurial spirits?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a big believer, Ash, that there's no such thing as a self-made man. All of us are made up of thousands of others, people who've invested in us and spoken kind words to us. Yeah, my childhood was interesting. Like 50% of Americans, grew up in a broken home. Both of my parents faced addiction. I ended up leaving home at 16. And the reason that I'm here is because people loved me when I didn't know how to love myself.
Mhm.
And that's why my first value is love your people and treat them as whole people, because you never know what the challenges are that people are facing in their life. And what I have found is love is the ultimate superpower. Everything just falls into place when you have these opportunities to love people and try and elevate them in their journey through life. So that was certainly a seminal moment, and the humility that goes along with knowing that you don't do things on your own, right? Being able to lean into other people has allowed me to build great teams, to not become the bottleneck in businesses, and so that has manifested itself in that way. I think the other piece that I would think about is my brother was a big influence on me. He was 8 years older than me. I was the
Mhm.
youngest of four. And my brother loved to party more than he liked to go to college classes. So he ended up getting kicked out. And my brother and I shared a room. And he looked at me as he was headed off to boot camp and he said, "Learn from my mistakes. I made them for you." And it was like this epiphany at 12 years old to think, you know what? All I have to do is be highly aware. Awareness precedes action. And so if
Mhm.
I'm just in a place where I'm very, very focused in perceiving what's going on around me, I can learn way faster than having to get my own teeth bashed in. And
Mhm.
so that's why I've been committed in the second half of my career to share the lessons. It's why I do podcasts, and you've been generous to invite me onto your platform because, geez, if I've had my teeth bashed in, I'd rather just share the lessons with you so you don't have to get them bashed in too, right? Being an
Yeah.
entrepreneur is super hard, and I think sometimes you have to learn some lessons on your own, but it is way easier for you to learn from the mistakes of others. So it leads me to read a lot. It leads me to ask lots of really interesting questions, and yeah, that those are pieces from my childhood that have shaped who I am as an individual.
What was the line you mentioned? It was really cool. Awareness
Awareness precedes action.
precedes action. That was
Yeah,
cool.
I
I'm,
I
I'm,
say I
I'm,
say that to my I say that to my kids. So I have two kids. I love to death. I have a 12-year-old daughter, a 7-year-old, actually 8-year-old son. He just turned 8. And I say, Dad is not upset. That's not bad. I'm just trying to build awareness for you so that you
Mhm,
can make a better decision, take better action. So, for instance, my daughter is right into that space of like looks are important, and she loves doing her hair and looking good. It's a fantastic trait for the future.
mm,
Unfortunately, sometimes time gets away from her. So we were going to her best friend's birthday party. She ended up being 30 minutes late. And I said to her, sweetheart, Dad's not upset. But
mhm,
if you keep on showing up to your best friend's birthdays 30 minutes late, you may not get invited in the future. So you may
mhm,
want to take a different action in the future. And those are really good life lessons. I do the same thing in business, right? When
mhm,
we are clear with the outcomes that we expect, we allow people to have the awareness to take a different action to create another result. When
mm,
we don't do that, when we don't say the hard thing, Ash, right? Because all of us are guilty of this. Let me raise my hand. I'm guilty of it too. Where I see behaviors that are adverse to the construction of the company and the way that we want it to, whether it's the vision, the values, or the objectives, and I don't say anything, inherently I'm accepting that behavior.
mm.
And so you have to say the hard things. You have to do it, as I say, first time, every time. Otherwise, you are implicitly accepting that behavior. So just build
Right.
awareness. People want to do great. Sometimes they just don't know the path forward. So help them.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. And let's talk about the proven chaos then.
Mhm.
Where did the story begin for it, and where did the idea for it came into your mind? Were you like having a shower or walking on a street with a dog or your friends? What was the moment when you got hit by it?
I love it. Well, I always thought I was going to be a teacher. And then I realized that the world did not appreciate learning and teaching as much as I did. And so all I did was go into business, and I teach and coach through business. And that's the tack that I've taken.
Mhm,
I've run multiple businesses, either as a senior leader or as the entrepreneur. And this one, I had exited a construction business that was high growth. We had gone from 7 million to 30 million in 3.5 years, and I was quite burned out. And I was taking time off, and I would take my kids to school, and then I would call the marina. I lived down at the beach, and I'd say, put boat 4203 in the water, and I'd go fishing every day. And then I got
mhm,
introduced to a new regional CEO who had just taken a position, and I started going to breakfast with him. And he said, how do I hire you? And I said, this is not what I do. I go out on my boat every day. And eventually it turned into an engagement, a first engagement. So I blame Matt Foxall for all of this. So 6 years later, just serving the community. I have clients that work all over the world: Cairo, Egypt, in Vietnam, mostly here in the U.S. But that was the genesis for it. And what I realized in that process was I've never met anyone. I don't know about you, Ash, who goes to work and says, "I'd really like to suck at work today." Yet I know that at least 75% of Americans, survey after survey, say how much they don't enjoy their work. And I've
definitely.
never met a founder or an entrepreneur who says, "I want to have a marginally successful business where the people I pay to take care of our clients hate the work that they do, And yet I
Mm.
also know that only 30% of businesses are profitable, 40% of them are break even. And again, 75% of people hate the work that they do. And so, how do you reconcile creating that compelling company and create clarity across the organization so that not only do founders and entrepreneurs and CEOs and senior leaders feel proud of the work that they do every day, but our people show up every day and they are so inspired by the work that they're doing? My litmus test is, would our people work for free because they're having so much fun and growing so much? Now, of course, I'm not advocating not to pay our people.
Yeah.
However, if you use that as your litmus test to say, can I create an environment where people have the ability to pursue their passion, find purpose, have autonomy, and create mastery out of that? You're going to have people that are doing their best work. And so it's
Hmm.
just building that awareness for my founders, for my senior leadership teams, so that they can take better action and unlock the ability to create a compelling company. It's not that hard. Yet we get in the way all of the time, whether it's imposter syndrome or ego. And so I help people get out of their way. This little 7-pound bowling ball that we have on top of our shoulders, boy, it can be your greatest weapon, or it can be your biggest detriment. And so I try and put it into a positive place.
Definitely, definitely. And Jerry, what's I get a lot of questions from the founders and entrepreneurs, who's following the podcast. But not only that, but on the LinkedIn, when I post like, okay, I'm interviewing Jerry in a few weeks. Do you have any questions? And
Mhm.
this way, I get these responses like if they read through the profile and they understand, okay, this guy is like he's a ninja of scaling, right? And then they sometimes they comment me or sometimes they send me the question into the message box. One of the questions which I've received was like, Ash, can you ask Jerry about like what's one single piece of advice you would give to an aspiring entrepreneur? You see that the keyword here is aspiring, right?
Firing. Yep.
Who wants to scale their business quickly but ethically. A lot of coaches right now, they're saying, have you heard about this thing called um, just evil enough? It's a new book coming up, and it lists all the malpractices which startup has used in the past, which was not illegal, but it was
Hmm.
just evil enough to give them like a edge to like jump on the top or like grow very very quickly. And then when I realized, okay, because of the intriguing name, I myself registered for it. Okay, I'm gonna grab a copy of this book at some
Yep.
point. But
Yep.
then I guess it has to be, if I do something wrong, if I go to Tesco's and then by mistake, if I don't put the cart in its place, it bothers me.
Hmm.
If you know what I mean. So I can't
Yep.
do anything unethical to actually gain leverage. So what's
Yep.
what's your advice on that for aspiring entrepreneurs then?
Yeah. So I really believe that if you become financially wealthy and emotionally bankrupt, you lost the game.
Mm,
Which means, one of the first questions that I ask of founders is, what do you want the business to do for you?
mm,
Right. And sure, we want it to be successful. We want it to create a lifestyle, but on what are the guardrails? Like, is it successful if I don't go to my kid's softball game? If I can't walk around the block while Briggs is learning how to rollerblade? That is a non-negotiable for me. And so it's this idea that you have your vision, your values, and your actions in alignment. And Ash, I don't know if you've ever had this happen. I've had it happen a lot in my life where I've done something and I can feel it. It's a pit in my stomach where I'm like, God, that's not who I aspire to be. And there was a mismatch between um, my actions and who I aspire to be. And it didn't feel good. And so I didn't sleep well that night. And so um, I, I'm okay with creating unfair advantages through hard work or through being clever. I'm not okay with being a cheat or crossing that line, because for me, my personal values, that doesn't work for me. For other people, if it works for them, great. And, the test that I use is, if this decision showed up on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, would you clip it out and would you send it to your friends and family? And if the answer is no, then you're probably not doing the right thing. You're not proud of that decision. Now, I've made a lot of decisions that I'm not proud of in retrospect. But if you're doing that in the moment and you're using that as my decision making criteria or one of them, then I think it gives you a good guidepost of, I don't know, is that going to be hollow success down the road that I don't feel great about? Or is it something that I was really proud about because it was hard work, ingenuity, creativity, all of the things that you need to do as an entrepreneur and founder? For me, that is more important. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, I always do that when there is an ambulance going out from outside
No,
the window. But
no
so your
problem.
so your advice is to basically look inside, ask the question from, and I really really like the framework. Ask the question: does this decision you're taking, printed on the, I don't know, the Times of UK or
Yep.
Times of
Yep.
whatever country you live in, would you be
Yep.
able to forward that to your loved ones, you know, to feel proud
Yeah.
or something like that? That's a really good one. And you mentioned around, so would you be able to share a bit about the journey of scaling the franchise company, from
Mhm.
7 million to 18, within the 18 months? Because what I picked up from our conversation was, uh, you did it really, really fast, 18 months, very small
Mhm.
time to grow that
Mhm.
big. And B, I felt like that there was a burnout sort of situation,
Oh
maybe
yeah.
not you, but like other people. So would you be able to take us through that journey, give us some pointers, like
Yeah.
what you have done better if you have put in the same situation now? So let's first go through the journey, what you did that, and then we will talk about something, what you have done better.
Yeah. So that's really when I learned that I love drinking from the fire hydrant of business. Right. I love fast and faster, and every day I would come in, I'd wrap my lips around the fire hydrant, and they'd turn it on full blast and say, "Don't miss it, don't miss a drop." Here's the thing. Here's the thing that I learned in that, Ash, is I think I opened my fifth store, and I realized I'm acting like this is the first time I've ever done this. So I told
Hmm.
everyone, I'll be back in a week. And, this is 25 years ago. I picked up my desktop computer and my CRT monitor, and I plopped it on my kitchen table at my house. And I sat there and I wrote how to open a soccer store in 10 easy steps. And it was about 110 pages, right? So it was tongue in cheek, 10 easy steps. But what we did was we took what was an executive function, only I could do it because the special sauce was here in my mind, and it became an administrative function because I took the time to create a process and a system that my administrative assistant, Krista, could execute. Now, the
Mm.
other thing that the output of that was, it usually took us between 6 to 9 months to open a store. And we got it down to about 4 months because there was no slippage, there was no indecision. We knew exactly what a store opening package was. And so that gave us the opportunity to create clarity and to create scale. And what happens a lot of times is people feel like they're too busy to document the process. And very early stage, I agree with you because it's going to change. You haven't figured out the best way to do it. But you do get to a point where if I want to solve the biggest problems inside of a company, I have to document it so I can hand it off to someone else to execute.
Mm.
Once I had finished that and handed it off to Krista, I then went on to the methods of marketing, what I tongue in cheek called the soccer mom. And I
Mhm.
gave a roadmap of how we could explode our store's revenues by connecting with the local soccer community and the clubs, and gave them a roadmap of how to do it. Again, now it's not dependent on me. They can execute it in their local markets. And I just continue to do that. The next one was the training manual of how we bring people into the business and train them as retail clerks. So really for me, the success came in, I took everything that was in my head, I documented it, created the process and systems around it, and that allowed us to accelerate way faster. If I had held on to that, there's no way we would have gone from 5 million to 15 million in 18 months. So
Mm.
that was the first thing where I just thought, wow, systems and processes have to run companies, and people run and build the systems and processes, right?
Processes. Yeah,
And
exactly.
that was the important um, lesson in scaling. That's how I think about that. Once I had gotten past product market fit and I knew what the market needed, I needed to document it so other people could do it and the business could grow beyond me. The second piece of that, and you asked work life balance and how do you manage that, and what I would do differently. At the same time, we were raising $5 million in venture capital.
Hmm.
And so not only did we have this high growth, demanding machine that required time from us, raising capital is in and of itself a second job.
Hmm.
And I started sleeping on the couch outside of my office. And I know people say, like, oh, I work 100-hour weeks. I promise you, there's 168 hours in a week. I was working 100-hour weeks. People would say, did you really send me an email at 4 o'clock? Yes, I was working, trying to catch up. And we turned down three different offers to fund the company. And the stress of it all, on Valentine's Day, when I was 26 years old, I thought I was having a heart attack.
My God.
And I was laying on a gurney, and I had the electrodes hooked up, and I'm watching the EKG monitor, and I remember counting the dots in the ceiling tile, and I was thinking to myself, what have you done? Because at that
Mm.
point in time, I couldn't answer any questions. I couldn't provide vision. I wasn't a resource to anyone. And so your body will catch up to you. It will make you quit, or at least put pause. And so I think there is a limit to things. In my
Mm.
20s, I worked really, really hard. I didn't meet my wife until I was 32. Didn't have kids until I was older. Um, but I also don't, for me, look back and say, "Oh, I wish I had done this," or "I wish I had tried that." It worked for me, but that lesson of there are bounds, and again, that whole concept of if you become financially wealthy and emotionally bankrupt, you lost the game. And I think sometimes the demands of the business, it is a demanding, brutal um, business when you are scaling. And I've done it a couple times. 5 million to 15 million in 18 months, 7 million to 30 million in 3.5 years. um,
Mm.
it takes a toll on you. And so
Def-
the the other lesson that I would put in that is, because we don't do life alone,
mhm.
think about talent density when you were inviting people on the mission with you. And so get as high quality of people as you can around you, because it's the greatest gift you can give, not only yourself, but the people around you who are working and the people that you aspire to serve. So that's my long-winded answer of what I learned on that journey.
No, that was perfect because that gives us so much different verticals to look into when you're feeling burnout and things you
Mhm.
have to do. And thanks for the tip which you mentioned. Like documentation is one of the best thing you could do to yourself when you're like on the journey. So that's great. Have I heard it correctly, or it's just my brain boggling here and there? You mentioned that businesses is widgets. Is that something which
Mm,
you do your profile? I think
yeah,
so. Would you be able to elaborate on what you mean by that?
yeah. So once you get past the important, painful problem that you solve and who you solve it for,
Hmm.
the rest of business is just operationalizing. How do I find those people? How do I create desire? And then how do I deliver it profitably to the marketplace? And
Mm.
so the process is the process, right? You have to have a vision. You have to have values. You have to have resources to execute that. When you think about the three core foundations of every business, it's marketing, sales, and delivery or production, depending on your product or service. And so I always think it's very interesting. I've advised over 100 companies. When people say to me, "No, Jerry, you don't understand. My business is different," and I kind of smile and like nod my head. And the reality of it is, again, the business is widget. How do I move it through the system as efficiently as possible to create traction in the marketplace?
Mhm.
And I don't care whether you're doing um, cabinets for high end luxury residential. I don't care if you're doing civil engineering. I don't care if you're doing marketing services. The process is the process is the process. And so for me, I've never been the technical leader. I would tell you this is the first time, Ash, where I've actually known what the heck I was doing inside a business, which is to teach business to other CEOs. But
Mm.
I, I wasn't the expert in the retail franchise company. I wasn't the expert in the manufacturing company. I wasn't the expert in the internet company. I didn't even know how to code. I mean, I
Mm.
learned how to code over time. I wasn't the expert in construction. I don't even hang the pictures in my own house. And so when you have that learning mindset and you understand that business is widgets, you can get passionate about the product over time, but it's just operationalizing. How do I bring it to market? How do I create that virality? How do I get people to stick around and become raving fans? That process doesn't change. I don't care what business you're in.
Mm. Mm. And when we are talking about processes, sometimes it also comes to the culture, isn't it? What role do you think does a company culture plays in creating compelling or a successful
Mm,
business?
right. Well, I think about values are really the operating system of a business. It's our agreements of whether um, we feel good about the interactions that I have day to day and how people treat me. So Um, culture to me is the output of trust. So when someone says that they have a good culture, I think my experience is what they're saying is I have high trust in the people around me to do
Mhm.
great work. And so when I think about that, transparency is part of that. Competency, consistency is all part of that because it's way more fun to be around people that you trust. Otherwise, you can't do your best work. And
Mm.
so when I think about culture, I think what people are really saying is this place is fun because I can trust how people are going to work hard and how I'm going to be treated.
Got it. Got it. Sometimes I feel that there is a monumental difference between understanding of a company culture among small organizations or startup businesses
Mhm,
compared to big enterprise level organizations. And that's because the small startups are more focused on growth, traction. They want to
mhm,
prove themselves, right? And while they're doing it, they kind of put the company culture in a side. But then the other flip side of that coin is also you cannot actually get good people come and work for you as a startup if you don't kind of have a proper culture, isn't it? So there's
yep,
like two sides of it, and I'm guessing the 99% startups who fail and then the 1% who doesn't fail kind of have that the other side of the coin, which is the culture side of it. What's your thoughts on
yeah,
it?
I think you're right. The easiest time to start to embed culture is when you have the idea and you say, what type of company do I want to build and who do I want to invite on the mission with me? Right. And so um, once you get to about 20 people, you have a culture, whether you want it or not. And so
Mm.
embedding values in at that point in time, the operating system, now you're fighting an uphill strain. So I encourage people to do it as early as possible, so the change management um, is isn't as hard, right? Is the reality of it. The second piece of that is when I think about decision making and what business we're in and where we're going, it is part of the filter process on making decisions. So, does it align with our vision? Does it
Mm,
align with our values and how we want to be perceived in the marketplace and how we treat each other? And does it help achieve our objectives? If you're missing that, then my experience is people um, make their own decisions because you haven't given them the roadmap. Nature abhors a vacuum. We know this. And so if you don't fill it with information, then someone makes a decision and comes in over top, not because they're malintended, but because we haven't created the clarity of how we act inside of this company. And I
mm,
think it's true too as companies continue to grow, which is we don't make hiring decisions based around our values. We start to make hiring decisions based around people's competence. Like,
mm,
I want you, you're $1 million salesperson. I want you to come do that for me. I don't
mm,
care that you're an asshole and no one likes you.
mm,
And that's where companies go wrong. That's where companies become soulless. That's when vision and values are those things that sit on the wall that no one pays attention to. And so the more disciplined you can be in having those things at first and then using hiring and decision making processes and frameworks to use them to inform your decisions, the more aligned your company is. And
mm.
my experience, I don't know about yours, but the more aligned you are, the less friction there is and the faster you can go. And that for me is everything.
Yeah, yeah, and then you can make faster decision, which is exactly what you said. Faster you can go because you can make
Yeah,
decisions. Oh, you don't align with the culture, or you don't align with the with our company's values. So there you go.
that's right.
Right.
And so I look back in my career, what a great run in the construction business, 7 to 30 million. The thing that keeps me up at night, Ash, is if I had brought my COO in earlier, the best COO that I've ever worked with, Zach Mitchell, could we have gotten to $50 million?
Mm,
What was the missed opportunity in that? Because we were so in line about how to run the business and what the objectives are that the high trust to execute allowed us to get a Herculean amount of decisions made and objectives achieved because we knew how to resource projects and to create the clarity for the company. That's a magic power that you
mm.
have. And so um, everyone has a company culture. I would tell you, if I'm the founder or a senior executive, I want to craft that narrative so that everyone can feel good, show up every day to go do their best work.
Definitely, definitely. And Jerry, as you've been talking, I want to share something from my personal experience also. So not just me, I think most of the founders in today's world, many other leaders also, and not just the
Mm-hmm.
startup founders, but other enterprise leaders, they all kind of face burnout time to time,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's my personal experience that when I face burnout, for a time I try to squeeze thing up into the same time to make sure that I finish everything within a day. And then at the end of the day, I have this feeling of doing something, but then I also have a feeling I should have given a little bit more time to this particular part or this particular task or work, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not satisfied by what I have done. I'm satisfied by how much I have done, but not like the quality of work I've done. And I have
Mm.
spoken with several founders in in this space, and that they share this feeling with me. What are your um, advice or strategies for maintaining enthusiasm and balance both together in the work?
Yeah. So I don't believe in balance. I think it's a myth and I think it's misguided, right? What I think it is the alignment of, again, my vision, my values, and my actions. I may have them for business if I'm running a business. I definitely have them for myself personally, right?
Hmm.
So my why of why I try and go out and do amazing work is because of my family. And what am I teaching my kids? Because I want them to see, my wife is an amazingly successful sales leader, right? I want them to see both of us working really hard to create the opportunities that we're able to create for our family. And so that informs um, how I work, how much I work. Um, and I think when we are trying to build at all cost, that's when we lose our way. When I talk about that pit in my stomach, we've all had it where we've
Mm,
missed the dinner or we looked at the phone and didn't answer the call from a friend or from your mom or whoever it is, right? Those are the times that we know because we inherently have our own values. But to me, um, if you can get passionate about the work that you're doing and the problem that you're solving, it isn't work. Like the work that I'm doing, running businesses, advising businesses, this is not work. I would be doing this anyway. You can't see it, but there's hundreds of books next to me. I
mm,
am a lifelong learner. I love doing this. I love solving the biggest problems of business. It is humbling for me. And so the idea that um, you would lose the enthusiasm, you lose the enthusiasm because we've lost our priorities.
mm.
And I think that's the critical distinction that we need to make.
Got it. Got it. Um, I see that you have this background on your screen saying on a
Mhm.
mission to positively impact 5 million people in the next 4 years. I want to touch on it. Is that okay to talk on the call?
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course. Yeah.
great. What's
Hey,
this 5 million target? Share,
yeah.
sir. So,
I wanted to be modest and make sure that I could go achieve the number, and so that's why it's 5 million. No,
okay.
um, one of the last companies that I was brought in to run, um, I had values misalignment with the founder,
Hmm.
and our approaches were just different. He's a great guy. Um, we just didn't do business in the same way. So he
Hmm.
was a very nervous founder, more like Eeyore, and I'm more like Buzz Lightyear. And Ash, it was the first time in my life where I didn't enjoy the work that I was doing. I was part of that 75% of Americans.
Hmm.
And I thought to myself, wow, this is what it feels like to not enjoy your work. And my
Hmm.
wife came to me one day and she said, because I love her and she's blunt and honest and direct. She said, "You are not a great husband. You are not a great dad. You are not a great friend. In fact, you don't have friends because you are traveling so much. And I think you're not enjoying the work that you're doing. You should quit." And she was right. I wasn't a great dad. I wasn't a great husband. I wasn't a great friend. And I wasn't enjoying the work that I was doing. Um, I was inspired by the mission of the company.
Hmm.
I was inspired by the work that I was doing. And yet that misalignment of approach created an environment where I had to leave because I didn't own the company.
Hmm.
And so, uh, as I thought about that, if you're not good at work, you can't be great at home. And
Hmm.
if you're not good at home, you can't be great at work. And yet, businesses want you to say, like, oh, leave all your personal stuff at home. It doesn't happen, Ash. We bring
Hmm.
our whole selves to work. And so that's when I got really inspired by it's not that hard to run an amazing, compelling company. And when I think about it, there's three ways you can create a compelling company. One is people are inspired by your mission. The second is that they love the values and the people that they work with because they feel valued and loved in what it is that they're doing. And the third is they can love their role. And
Hmm.
so I love sales, but I really love B2B SaaS sales. I'm in the right seat. Now, the
Hmm.
magic happens when you have a disciplined hiring process, you have clear vision, you have clear values, you work every day to align actions to that. And suddenly you have people who are inspired by the vision that you're on, inspired by the values, and dominating their role because they love it. That's when the rocket ship takes off. And to me, that's like foundational. And if we can just give CEOs and senior leaders frameworks by which to run their companies better, I believe that people go home. And one of my goals for all the companies that I advise is that when they go home and their spouse says, "Hey Ash, did you have a good day today?" that they don't shrug their shoulders. That we
Mm.
are so clear on how they participate and how they contribute to the success of the company that they say, "I had a great day. We needed to do 3 widgets today. We put out 5. And you know what? The people around me, I love it. And I have the autonomy in my work to do my best work. I'm in flow every single day."
Hmm.
That's how you go and create the rocket ship that really takes off. Because I'm amazed at how people who have big, grand visions allow mediocrity to persist inside their organization. Now, that doesn't mean to be cutthroat. You can be super compassionate, but that requires you to be clear. Here is the important, painful problem that I need you to solve in your role. Here are the metrics and KPIs that we know are happening if you're doing that. And I get to have really honest, transparent conversations to say, "Ash, look at the scoreboard. It's just not working. And
Mm.
so, how do we get you into another role or to another company in a role that works for you?" So you can do that compassionately, but at the end of the day, I can't accept sixes in my business and expect outsized results. It's not going to happen. And that's when we get really frustrated as founders when we look around and it's like, are these the people that I'm on the mission with? They're not very inspiring to me. They're not going to be
Mm.
very inspiring to your clients either.
Yeah, yeah. And are you planning to sort of like convey this message to the people and then make sure that 5 million people are inspired by
Yeah.
this message? What's the
So,
essence
yeah.
of this goal?
So I'm a big believer in planning. So planning is all about living in the future and having the opportunity to say, here's how I know this is going to happen. So I'm in the middle
Mhm.
of writing two books. So what does every great business need? They need great inspired people. So the first book is about the 9 principles of personal performance, how you live your life on your terms so that you are fulfilled in doing your best work. That's
Mhm.
piece one. The second is the business acceleration model. It's the framework that I use to build my companies, to use it to advise the companies that invite me on the mission with them, because there is a process, and the ability to have a framework allows you to point and say, "This isn't working in the framework. Let's go fix it." So it allows you to move faster. And then what I call the leadership gap, the thing that glues together great people and business models are our leaders.
Mm.
And the reality of it is, we're the ones that mess it up, Ash. Our people come to work, they want to do great work,
Yep.
but we don't do a great job. And so I have a whole coursework that I have developed to train leaders, and it always starts with us. What's my vision? What are my values? I mean, heck, we have a user manual for a phone and our cars. Why don't we have user manuals for each other? Here's the best way to interact with me. The one that I give people is, I'm a great stage 2 guy. If you want to
Mm.
just ping ideas off me, that's not where I'm great. Like,
Mm.
develop it, eliminate some, and then we're going to have a conversation. So we
Yep.
we get people really into a place where they can be predictable as a leader. Because when I think about what is the role of a leader, it's to create a predictable environment for our people to thrive,
Got it.
right?
Got it.
And so for me, that is the piece. So I will know when the books are published, the courses are done, they're good. There's a 3-part course. Um, and I am on stages talking about how to build a high growth, compelling companies where people love to show up.
Mhm.
And by default, the $5 million people will happen.
Awesome, awesome. That's a good target. Maybe if you will be doing some talks in Europe at some point, then I would be
Yes,
glad to join them. So yeah, looking forward to it. Great. So Jerry, I'm enjoying this conversation so much. Like I don't want to end it, but
me
we've
too.
limited the time and everything. So Yeah, we have got a very good lightning round for you. So, before summarizing our interview, would like to go into the lightning round? I have got six
Of
quick
course,
fire questions.
I'm I'm
And then
I'm, I'm ready for them.
awesome, perfect. Thank you so much. Great stuff. Okay, great. So I've got six questions. I'm gonna ask you each of them one by one. You can answer them as quickly as you can. All right.
Okay.
Number one. What's the top three strategies to scale your B2B sales in 2024? 2024 is almost ending, so 2025.
Yep. So I think you should have um, to scale a deep understanding of your client, right? The person who knows their client better is always going to win. To me, I am a big believer in allowing people to sell themselves before they come to you. They're doing lots of research. The world has tipped in that way. And I also think there's an outbound, as long as you are very clear on your ICP so that you can have deep, intimate conversations with them. If it's a spammy, regular cold email, don't do it. But if you can go outbound and add value to people, that's what I would be doing.
Cool. Good three tips. What book would you recommend to our audience and why?
Yeah. So the Book of Joy, it's a conversation between Archbishop Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama. And they talk
Mhm.
about the pillars of joy, which is really a life well lived. And so I used to recommend How to Win Friends and Influence People and the Seven Habits by Stephen Covey. And I would tell you, all you need is one book now. It's the Book of Joy.
Awesome. What's one attribute or characteristic in your mind of a successful founder?
Smile.
That's the best one, right? Yeah, no matter how deep painful you are in from inside, but if you have a smile on your face, you're halfway through.
True, because I can see pain. I've done this for long enough. I spend 20 to 25 hours on calls. You can ask clients of mine. I say, Ash, what's going on? Because I can see the stress and anxiety, and they're like, "How can you see that?" I don't know. Right? Mother Nature gave me that gift as an empath to feel your pain. So if there is a genuine smile, then I know things are going well.
Perfect, perfect. What's your favorite personal productivity tool or habit?
Oh man, personal productivity tool. I would say Trello boards because it helps me keep organized. So I think it's the simplest project management tool that I use. So I use that
Mhm.
with my two assistants, just keep us on track, and I have found that to be super successful.
Awesome. What's a new or a crazy business idea you would love to pursue if you had a time?
Oh man, this is a good one, Ash. You know, I would tell you, I think I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'm doing the work that I was meant to go do, and so um, I can't imagine, at least at this point in time, being more passionate and more purpose driven than this one right here, right now.
Mm, got it, got it. You have your crazy part.
I do, right? I
Yeah,
mean, not many people show up and say, "I'm going to go try and impact 5 million people to have a better life."
yeah, yeah,
But
that's true.
I think,
That's true.
I think that's my calling.
Yeah, yeah, totally agree. Great. And last but not least, what's an interesting or fun fact about you that most people don't know?
Oh gosh, that most people don't know. Most people don't know that I do not like to wear shoes.
What?
So to the extent that, yeah, I am barefoot right now, Ash. I present barefoot. I speak barefoot. People think it's unique, but for me, I don't know. It's just I feel most comfortable and most grounded with my feet on the earth.
Good to know. Next time I meet you, maybe I'll come barefoot too. Great, Jerry. Thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story, unpacking, years of building different businesses and some of the ups and downs. If people want to check out Proven Chaos and if they want to get in touch with you in general, what's the best way to do it?
Yeah, so the easiest place to go is to provenchaos.com. And we're pretty active over on LinkedIn because I generally work with B2B companies. That's a good place to go find me.
Perfect. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your inspiring journey and the impactful work you're doing with Proven Chaos. It's been
Well,
an
I,
absolute pleasure.
I, I appreciate you, Ash. You are good at doing this and you ask really good questions. I've done a number of podcasts, but this has been one of my more entertaining ones. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on Founders Podcast. Great. Thank you all for tuning into this episode of our Founders Podcast. I hope you found our conversation with Jerry insightful and inspiring. I would definitely suggest you to go on LinkedIn and search for his name, Jerry Macnamara, and search for Proven Chaos and get in touch as soon as possible. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to our podcast and stay updated on our future interviews with proven founders and industry experts. Stay inspired, stay motivated, and keep building.